Hi, this is Paul, founder and president of Giant Jacks Media, where we help people to grow and nurture their businesses. I get to work with some really great people in my job, and Sarmad is no exception. He's a commercial real estate broker in the San Francisco Bay Area. His family's in real estate, he's in real estate, he's got that background, he comes from an accounting family, so he knows numbers. Very interesting guy. I sat down with Sarmad on Giant TV for an eye-opening discussion about his focus and what you should be thinking about when it comes to guarding your investment property. Let's go jump in. Hi everybody, this is Paul Hitchcock. Welcome to Giant TV. I'm the founder and president of Giant Jacks Media. We help other professionals to grow and nurture their businesses. And I'm really excited for my guest today, Sarmad. Welcome.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you having me on, Paul.
Yeah, and we know you're a commercial insurance broker, and that's just a very vague term because I know you're very different from others. You have a very unique service that you provide. So I want to get into this, and Sarmad, tell me a little bit about your background and where you're from and how you got started in this business.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for asking. Yeah, I've been in the industry. It'll actually be 19 years at the end of this month that I've been in insurance.
Well, you don't look old enough to be in the business. 19 years.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I appreciate that compliment. And it's been a wonderful ride. It's always been in the property casualty space, and I've always been working with real estate investors on to basically how they make money for a living. And it's been, whether it's been insuring their single family homes, their multifamily, I've worked on, hotels, other complex apartments. And now I'm really focused on those large real estate portfolios, including, high rise buildings, office, retail, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really just property and casualty with a really narrow focus of commercial real estate.
Okay. Well, Sarmad, when you got into that business, I often find that sometimes people have a mentor, that got them into it. Like, how did you get into the business to start out with?
Well, that's a great question. So prior to my insurance career, I actually worked for Artstone Apartments. So I was actually a leasing agent and a junior property manager. That's what really helped me understand that world, especially multifamily and apartments, because then I actually really understood what my clients are going through. I myself am a property investor, and my family has owned land, for generations. And that is where I think I really separate myself, because I have a lot of people who I've seen, just not as necessarily insurance mentors, but other mentors who are just in investing. And I really saw a real gap of, how investors think compared to how the typical insurance broker thinks. Creating kind of like a bridge to, okay, this is actually what you need to get done in the insurance. This is the actual kind of coverages you need, but let's think like an investor, and how can you leverage insurance to, get better investments or protect your investments better.
Oh, I love that. And where did you grow up, Sarmad? Did you grow up in the San Francisco Bay Area?
I did. I grew up in the East Bay. I grew up in San Ramon. But my dad was an accountant in the city and spent a lot of time with him. So I spent kind of half my time in the East Bay and half my time in San Francisco. But my wife lets me know all the time that I grew up in the East Bay. I'm not considered a San Francisco native. So that's the differentiator right there. That no, I did grow in the East Bay.
You're over the bridge, over that way, east, over the bridge. Well, growing up around an accountant, would you consider yourself a numbers guy? You like numbers, and do you have to be a numbers, guy to be in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my dad, my mom, and my brother are all accountants.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I really appreciate and I love numbers. I just, I got into the insurance industry because I like talking to people and I like serving people. I don't want to be looking at a spreadsheet all day, but that is absolutely a big part of it. We really do a lot of analysis. That's my favorite part of it. It's kind of like solving a puzzle. When I'm looking at people's real estate portfolios and we're going, okay, this is where their biggest part of the risk of the portfolio is. How can we mitigate that risk? How can we improve, basically improve their ROI? And, by telling them, hey, this is the most risk. This is where you should invest, add some wildfire defenses, or You know, you
Right.
should, retrofit this building for earthquakes so you can reduce the insurance spend on your most profitable property.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love your comment about you look at it through the lens of an investor because you've had that experience, you're in it. And so when you're talking to somebody who's investing in real estate, where are some of the common, holes that you see in when it comes to insurance, where people miss it or things they should be aware of that like people wouldn't normally think about?
Well, the two most common issues are, number one is valuations. This is something that the insurance companies are pushing very hard. Sometimes they're high or low, and that's, if somebody's going to have a catastrophic loss, that's going to be the number one thing that they wish they understood better. Is
What
the
do you mean?
valuation.
What about valuations? What's the issue there?
Well, the issue is that they're often wrong. And the
Oh, okay.
insurance people, for example, if you have $100 million building, I'm seeing a lot of times people have it insured at $80 million.
Why would they be under? Why would that happen?
Well, it's because, maybe they purchased it 20 years ago and it was valued at $80
Oh,
million 20 years ago. But now, values have gone up, materials are more expensive, labor is higher. Especially we've seen that since the major wildfires that started in 2017, they've drastically increased valuations. Now, not always, right? I mean, I've got some clients in Arizona that we're over insured. And I mean, you just want to make sure that you're at the right spot, because if you're over insured, you're paying for insurance you're never going to use.
oh, I see. Right.
Right. And, and I'm not saying it's having 100% valuation is the end all be all. There are certainly some strategies which you purposely will slightly underinsure, based on your overall real estate portfolio. You might, if you're doing like blanket coverage for multiple properties, you might insure each property at 90% because the blanket has enough coverage for all of the properties. But again, the thing is, you want to be knowledgeable about that. That's just not something you want to do unintentionally. And then the second biggest issue is business interruption or business income insurance. So often people don't estimate, for example, we'll just use the multifamily space as the example. People don't necessarily report their correct rent to their insurance broker. And if that's underreported, or, they were at a different vacancy, that is something where if you have a claim and you have to rebuild, that's literally paying you for your renters that you have in your multifamily space, right?
Okay.
So not having that correct, and that's where I think my experience as a leasing agent and a property manager comes into play a lot, because I'll actually really understand that and go, hey, what are you actually getting for rent, and have that conversation with our clients. And that's where I've probably brought the most value for, especially my multifamily clients.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And I was going to ask you along those lines is because, what does your process look like when you're talking to somebody, new client? You go through an evaluation process up front? Is there a complimentary assessment, or how do you handle that initial interaction with somebody that's checking you out?
Well, we do go through a complimentary process. We do something that's called catastrophic loss modeling first and foremost, especially on the large real estate portfolios. This is something where we actually pull in an actuary, and it's a very incredibly complicated formula. Even though I understand the formula, I'm not the one doing it, because I actually use somebody who's got an actual math background to do it. And then we give so much information to our clients or prospects about, hey, this is where the biggest risk in your real estate portfolio is. And along with those lines, we do a deep dive on each property where we'll understand, how it's built, where, the issues might be like, hey, this one's might need a new roof. Hey, actually flood exposure for this property is a little higher than you anticipated. And again, we'll also find out all the numbers on, what are you getting for rent? What are you actually spending for maintenance and things like that? And really just gather all of that information to make a better insurance program that's customized for our client or prospect, rather than, I think a lot of people in our industry, and, good or bad, they kind of just almost less rest on their laurels, right? They kind of just take over a program where they're not necessarily looking to really start a program. And I'm not even talking insurance markets. I'm not going there. I'm really trying to do is make sure that their coverage is correct and the coverage is intentional. Because again, if people are going to be underinsured or overinsured or whatever, I just at least want to make sure that's intentional, not
Yeah.
done by accident.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think there's a mistake people make in thinking that all insurance, brokers are the same. And it's just not true. I mean, when you have a hands-on approach like you have and you're in the business, it's a differentiator.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting because with the insurance, Sarmad, one of the companies I'm building now is a law firm in asset protection, and the lawyers always say insurance is your first line of defense, and it's great. And you really have to understand how insurance is involved with asset protection, because this firm gets in on the legal side of it, above and beyond insurance if there's litigation and so forth. But I think that's a great way to put it, where insurance, so what you're doing is really asset protection at a very high level.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those attorneys, a lot of it is more the liability based, but this is the actual tangible assets.
Right.
And
right.
It's again, the biggest asset for most of my real estate clients is the actual physical property, and then it's the actual rent that they're getting. So if they're making money, on real estate, those are my type of clients. And again, those are the two things that I look at the biggest, right? Because
right.
that's their, another big thing that too about the lost income or business income is people don't realize that it goes hand in hand with the valuations, that it takes a long time to, rebuild. And, like, for example, I'll try to give much longer amount of time to a client who has a building in San Francisco, because the permit process is longer.
Oh, right.
Compared to, somebody who might be in, Kansas.
Yeah. It's heinous.
It's
heinous in San Francisco. Yeah.
Right.
Horrible.
Yeah. And that's kind of goes to what you're talking about, right? It's the line of defense, for making sure you get enough money to keep operating, while you're rebuilding.
Yeah.
And, for most of my clients, it is their entire business, right? So I do have some who are, that's especially early on in my career, where, they were a doctor or an attorney, and, investing in real estate was really just kind of their side thing and
side gig.
And when you're dealing with that, that's more education. But when you're dealing with clients where it's their whole livelihood, you got to make sure it's done correctly.
Yeah. But which gets to the point is, who exactly are you working with? Who's your ideal client?
Well, my ideal client, I have three kind of clients, and they invest. So first of all, what they're investing in is typically, again, multifamily, hotels, office, and that includes high-rise buildings. But the three client buckets are typically, it's either a wealthy family who's investing in commercial real estate. It's an investor group where they raise capital and then they buy real estate and they give a return to their investors. Mm-hmm. And even, on that same line, it's the third bucket is like the flat out real estate investment trust, or what we call REITs. Those are my three biggest bucket of clients.
Yeah. And they, in your territory, are you focused on one specific geography, or are you going everywhere?
Well, I am national, but I will admit most of my clients and prospects, 90% of them are in Northern California.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And some, I even have one prospect right now. They're located here, but they don't own a single piece of California property. So, they're mostly on the West Coast, but for the real estate holdings. But, and that's a great thing about me being at USI. We have great amount of resources. So part of the reason I'm working with that prospect, and I'm pretty sure they're going to move forward as a client, is that we've got loss control people in each state that they have property. So I'm going to be able to send someone boots on the ground and look at each of their properties to try to basically mitigate the risk, to make them more appealing to the insurance company. And, unless you're with the national brokers like USI, you're not going to be able to have the resources to do something like that. I'm happy to do that kind of stuff for my clients here locally. And I've even gone down to SoCal to do that occasionally, but I can't go to 8 different states, right?
No,
for one client, it's just not even feasibly possible, but luckily my company can. So that's a big advantage.
Love it. Sarmad, awesome information. I think it's great. And I'd like to stay connected on your progress and what you're doing, having you back. I want to thank everybody for watching this. And you got to get connected to Sarmad, his information, wherever you're watching this, because we live stream this everywhere. Sarmad's information is going to be around this video, either up here, down there. I don't know where it is, but connect with him, get into his network. And I know you're giving out a lot of valuable information, helping people that are property investors. So thank you, Sarmad. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Paul. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. See you next time.
Absolutely.
Bye.